All right, so for part three of this, I've got a really quick one to do, a really quick image to work on, practice some of our Photoshop techniques that we've been working on until now. Basically, I think a legitimate question in the way I've been working in Photoshop so far is, what's the point of all this when we can just tell the AI, to put Godzilla in New York destroying a helicopter for us, or to create a rendering of a of a door with a person looking through it, watching rockets in space. I'm here referring to the previous two demos that I walked through. Well, I produced this image that I'm about to open up here, of the back rooms using Midjourney. And I'm mentioning it because I gave it a very complex text prompt and asked it to do specific things to generate this image. And it didn't quite do all of them. So I guess the point I'm trying to make here is, even if you do ask the AI, which is going to be the future, I think, already is somehow the future of working with images, generating creative images, there may be some sort of things you want to clean up about the image to make it work better for you. So in this particular case, I used the original text prompt from the Reddit post to create a backrooms image. I asked it to put in something. I asked the Midjourney to put in something sinister and creepy. Didn't quite do that for me, and it gave me kind of strange textures on the walls that generally work, but could be slightly improved. For example, whatever these little spots, these little rectangle and this item is, and this one here maybe, I'm not sure that I want them there. So these are little details, but just to say that AI could still benefit from some post-production or cleaning up. So that's what I'm going to do with this particular image. So I'm going to create a layer from the background here. And first I'm going to clean up some of the aspects of this image that I'm not very happy with. So I want to create more continuous surfaces in the image. I don't mind that there's creepy wallpaper, but I don't like these random spots. So there are a couple ways of removing them. One of the ways that I would consider is maybe using the clone stamp tool, which I've shown previously. You click the clone stamp tool, you click Alt in a place where there is a pattern that you would like to clone onto the place that you're about to paint. So I could click up here and then maybe replace it. That looks terrible. Part of the reason is that my brush size is too big, so if I go up here to my options, I can reduce the size of the brush, maybe to 17. What does that do for me? But let's try. I can be maybe a little bit more deliberate about how I stamp this out. It's not really doing the job for me. The other way that's a little bit more reliable is the patch tool. And if I circle what it is that I want patched, and then move that patch to a place that I want it to sort of, let's say, look a little bit more like, it will patch it for me. I think that one looks a bit better. I could have maybe done a better job of doing my outline. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. I'm going to go into these pixels underneath. There we go. And I'm going to try to move it to some place that has a similar transition of hue. That's not bad. Anyway, as an object, it sort of disappeared. So let's move to another part of this image. I wasn't happy with these details. I don't really want them in the image. So how about I use the patch tool? Let's give that a try. Oops. I'm clicking and selecting the area that I would like patched with an alternative texture. What does that do for me? I think that works pretty well. Let's do clone stamp tool for this guy here. I don't want that there, so let's maybe, nope, that's not working. I wouldn't mind doing this bit patched. Let's size down the brush, since this image is a bit pixely. It's a bit small. Let's use this here. And let's use the patch tool around the shape we don't want and find a kind of similar shade there. And I think that worked pretty good. So I got rid of those objects. What I really wanted is something sort of very sinister and creepy to put in the back there. I wanted the backrooms to feel like, this image to feel like there was something lurking in there with you. So I found this very scary monster, and what I'm going to do is try to put it somewhere in the back there in the shadow and just sort of make it sort of subtly present in the image. Well, first thing I need is to get rid of all the black around. So I'm going to use my magic wand tool to select the black that's around. My tolerance is low, which is good. That's what I want. I want it to be very low so that it selects sort of minimum stuff. And I'm going to hold shift as I continue selecting so that it'll select more and more sort of closer to dark gray than black. But you'll notice as this happens that it starts to eat into the monster itself. And yeah, okay, he's kind of creepy. He deserves it. But we also want to get him out of there as a reasonable form. We want to include him in the image as a sort of reasonable form. So what we're going to do is let it do all the selecting that we want it to do. I'm holding shift with the magic wand. And then we're going to correct our selection after the fact. So I'm holding shift and selecting. I'm really clicking around here to get all the little stuff that I don't want to try to have to clean up myself later. There's space between the fingers here. I missed this part here. And I'm going to clean up my selection using the polygonal lasso tool. So here's the polygonal lasso tool. Remember, I have everything else selected other than the monster. So I want to remove, let's say I want to add this selection. I'm going to add this selection. It's part of his head. I'm going to remove this selection. And the way I'm removing this selection, you'll remember, is before clicking to activate the tool, I'm holding Alt. In these tutorials, I've probably said that. Oops, 100 times. Oops, I made an incorrect. It's incorrect what I'm trying to do here. Let's see. Why is it incorrect though? It should be Alt. Is it not? Did I not hold it all the way? Yeah, it's Alt. It should be Alt. I just didn't have it held when I clicked the mouse to activate the tool. Anyway, by holding Alt and then clicking, you'll notice the little minus sign, and that means that everything I'm selecting is being subtracted from the total selection. So that'll be part of his head here. If I were to hold the shift, then it will add. So there are little bits here that I want to add to the selection around the outside. I'm holding shift again. If I weren't to to hold shift, if I didn't hold shift or alt and I just clicked, then it would reset my selection. This guy's terrifying. So I'm going to do hold shift again, and I'm going to keep adding again around the perimeter of this image. I'm going to remove this selection. I want the torso here, oops, to be contiguous. So I'm going to remove, let's say, this here from the selection. Ooh. And I'm just cleaning up little bits here. Looks like there's more in the dark. That was cut out potentially, so I'm gonna try to add this into the selection. You know, what I'm looking for is the end of the line that I started with, or the beginning point, and it finds it when that minus turns to a 0, or a little O. I could also press enter, and that would directly connect me with it, so that's what I've done here. We're close. I'm not going to do it perfectly for the sake of time, but we'll get nice and close. So let's do this here. All right. Oops. Ah! Shift, and we're clicking. You really can do a lot with this particular tool. And if you know how to do your selections properly, then you've got you've moved quite a long way forward in your Photoshop skills. I'm going to subtract all of this. I'm going to imagine he's got an elbow somewhere here. I think I can just sort of barely see the curvature of his arm. And if I wanted to be, very precise about this, I would actually, I would zoom in and do it with the polygonal lasso tool instead of using the magic wand. You can see the magic wand in some way has created sort of more problems than it's worth. It's made some really irregular, funky shapes. One of the ways I can try and salvage that, I'm creating a layer from the background now, is by feathering the selection. So I'm going to maybe feather it. Let's do 2 pixels. And that means that when I delete the background, it'll create a little bit of a feather. If I click delete again with this selection, it'll feather it even more. So it'll thin him out even another 2 pixels. But I'm going to let him go at that. I'm going to play with the brightness contrast a little bit. Let's do max contrast and lower the brightness. Although I would like to have, to be honest with you, I would like to have his eyes a little brighter than the rest. I think that's going to be useful to the creepiness. So one thing I can do here, it's terrifying, isn't it? It's wonderful. I can go to oops, nope, I'm in the wrong place. I can go to the selection tools, and instead of choosing a rectangular marquee tool, I can use an elliptical marquee tool. That will allow me to do a selection that's an ellipse. If I hold shift, it will be a circle. So what I'm going to do with this is circle the eyes. Let me try again. Circle the eyes. Oops, hold shift, yeah. Kind of like that they're different sizes. And I'm going to go up to Image, Adjustments, Hue, Saturation, and make adjustments to only what is selected. So if you have something selected in the image and you go up to the to Image in the menu bar and you use any of these features, it's only going to affect what's selected. So let's make these eyes kind of light here. That's probably good enough. Super creepy. I'm digging it. Let's go rectangular marquee tool. Select this thing. Oops. Oops, I didn't select it. I selected it, but I didn't copy it. I'm going to go to Edit, Copy. Go to my backrooms image. Paste. That's absolutely horrifying. Let's scale this down a little bit and put it somewhere in the back there. That was my plan all along. Maybe we could even have it sort of peeking a little bit out from one of these side walls. That's an idea. Let's do that. What if we wanted it peeking out from behind this corridor? Well, in order to do that, we need to put a layer over top of this monster. So I'm going to leave him here for now and turn off his layer by toggling the eye. Let's title this monster, and the other layer, the backrooms. Turn the monster off temporarily. The location in this image that I want the border to be is about there. So let's do a line here to cut out this piece. And it doesn't really matter. We're basically creating an overlay. So I can essentially just cut out whatever piece is going to be over the monster. So let's do like this. It doesn't really matter what the rest of this is doing. So there's the piece I want to overlay on top of the monster. And this will make sense in just a second. So I'm on the backrooms layer right now. I'm gonna click Control C to copy, and I'm gonna click Control V to paste. Now, to be sure that it pastes in the right place, it does automatically, by default, paste in the right place. But if I were to move around, I don't know, maybe do some other function, and then click Control V, it might put it in another place. So it might copy that piece for me in another place. By default, it does it where it was to begin with. To be sure that it pastes in the right place, I can go up to Edit, Paste Special. So remember, I've already copied this piece of the backrooms to the clipboard, and go Paste in Place, and that will put it exactly where it was before. All right, so now there's this layer sort of by itself, right? And we've got the monster creeping behind the layer, and we can activate then the backrooms so that the one thing is in front of the other. And we'll call that overlay. And I like the monster. I don't know, maybe let's just make him a little bit even creepier. So that's me, again, adding to an AI-generated image some element that the AI didn't quite put in there. You know, if I were a stickler about this image, I might even want to try to get rid of some other details because I want the monster to maybe be a little bit more emphasized. So I'm not happy about some of these distractions on the walls. And again, just to reiterate, one of the ways we could do that is by carefully using our patch tool. And this one is a bit tougher. Let's see what we can do with this one. We can try a patch with this. You know, it's not the greatest, but for now, let's leave it. It's okay. You get the general idea using these tools. We could have been a bit more precise about that one, actually. Let's just leave that there. That's not bad. And there you go. So we have an AI-generated image that we brought up to speed, let's say, with our intentions, what we wanted anyway to get out of this image. So I'm going to save it as the backrooms, and I'm saving it as a Photoshop file, but we remember that we could also save it as a PDF or a JPEG. But for our purposes, when we bring it into InDesign, we can just leave it as a PSD. Totally fine. All right, that concludes this little tutorial. I'm going to show you one more thing about Photoshop, and then we'll jump into how to compose all these images in InDesign. See you soon.